Hi, I'm Seamless, and this is the third Infinity K tutorial. I almost call it the 75 day. The 75 particular. I'm going to show you how to make this sound. So, this is a recreation of bassline from Noisia's remix of Michael Knight, Nothing Matters. And I really didn't mean to do this sound, and we'll talk about that in a second. If you want to make a request to have your sound recreated for yourself in the Infinity K tutorials, please make a comment in the most recent Infinity K video, which at the time of release will be whatever the highest numbered one is. The purpose of that is that it'll keep the requests current, so that to ensure that I'm taking requests from pools of stuff that people care about. That's a theory. We'll see how all that works in practice. Yeah, so there's actually a bit of a story behind the sound. Nobody requested this. This happened by accident. I just realized in the midst of making Serum presets, just because that this just sounds that way, and I didn't mean that to happen. But then, once I realized it did, I just kind of nudged it a little bit, and now here it is. And the other cool thing is that this is 100% Serum alone. There's not a single bit of post-processing. Yeah. Not 100% on it. It's got the gist, sort of sounds like it, but I'm pretty sure the original version had a lot of independent layering going on. Or at least a much more deliberate and focused filtering, and certainly using a lot more than just a plugin and its built-in effects, no matter how extensive. Considering especially it's a lot older than I think Serum is. Yeah, but let's talk about how I made this. In the beginning, we have these guys, which without the effects sounds like this. So it's a little bit low key here, and the name of the game, really what's causing all of this to sound the way that it does, is really the compressor. Everything else just kind of adds to the tone. And of course, distortion. And, yeah. But before we get there, though, we got to talk about what's going on at the beginning, because some of that is still pretty cool. There's two oscillators here and a filter that's doing kind of what it's doing. I have the sub on direct out. Let's turn that off. The main mod is controlling a whole bunch of stuff, but mostly just the mirroring on this. This is what I'm using. The warp mode on this is the mirror. The waveform is just a thing that I did, and then a little bit of sort of editing on that. Actually, what would be the smartest way to show that? I think I'll just have another Serum up here to show you how I made. Actually, I could just do it on another frame. Derp. So basically what happened here is that I had a waveform that was mostly a line, and then had a little bit of sine waving going on, and I don't remember how. I think I did it with this. Yeah, something like this, basically. And then I took the noise tool and sort of fuzzed it up a bit. Now this will make a pretty sharp sound, which we can't hear because it's being filtered and whatever. But the point it was making is that this is a little bit sharper than sort of like this is a waveform that actually would have made it in Citrus. Come to think of it, I would have used the ring modulation to kind of create this sort of result. But one of the reasons why it's sharp is because this event that occurs here happens once per oscillation. This is also true for what a saw wave is. That's an important distinction, because I wanted to have a square waving kind of hollow tone to it, and that hollowness comes from not having a event but two events. And you'll see what I mean when I come in here and go squarify, bam, and then it makes this waveform, and then process, normalize each. And this creates the two events that create the sort of the square feel. And that's what sort of happened here. You can see there's a little bit of a difference, but it's because I just put this in a different spot before I created this particular aspect of it. Created this particular aspect of it, in case you wanted to know what the hell I just said. So with that, I'm using the mirror mode. Now, the mirror mode does, you just sort of see what it does. It puts the thing in the center and essentially squeezes the waveform up in there. I was using a remap to kind of make that do its thing, but then I ultimately didn't. Without a filtering, without the layer, this is what that sounds like by itself. On top of that, I also have Unison, and this is actually causing one of the main tonal aspects of the entire thing to happen, which is that really tight, really close phase cancellation sound that's just extremely of Noisia. And this is where I did that, which is you just make two voices and you make the detuner low enough, and it'll cause that kind of creeping high frequency phase cancellation. You can even see it happening. Like if I didn't have any movement on it. So you saw that like phaser-ish thing happening in there. That's the result of the tight phase cancellation that causes that. Now, a very not tight phase cancellation is what's going on number 2 here, which is really just a big old super saw. Now this guy serves a particular purpose, and I actually linked his level to a knob over here that I called Roar. And the reason for that is because when all this is on, next step over here being a bandpass filter, which is being controlled by macro 1 here. Bandpasses fucking everywhere all the time. But with all this crap on, the roar option has a particular effect. Because this guy, this Unison, this super saw thing has lots of sort of movement there that's not very different from what's going on with the phase cancellation here, except that there's more voices and a higher level of D2, which means that effect happens faster. And because there's 16 voices and not just 2, it's also uneven. And we get this sort of warbliness out of it. But for the tone, it actually works out pretty great. That's what it sounds like without it. Like, not bad, but it unlocks a particular oomph. Here's what it is maxed. Not only is it just beefier now because there's 16 voices, I do have a little bit of spread going on in the Unison pitch width, which is what this is on the global page. Its motion sort of makes like the sort of phase cancellation happening on the mid frequencies much more apparent, and it feels just kind of nice. So like I had, you could mix and match that kind of in there, which was the purpose originally of this preset before I realized that it sounded like that particular bass line. So that's a little bit neat there. Is that everything happening on the front side? Yes. Okay, so this is just a band 12, a little thing on a cutoff. Like, it's not talking about there. This is the bandpass. Step 1 out of the gate is to introduce distortion. This is just a straight up 2 distortion. I am, however, modulating the drive to be almost maxed most of the time, but then I think it comes up or down. I forget how it comes up. Yep, it goes up when it goes up. All right. And then we have the mix, which also goes up when it goes up, but spends most of its time kind of down. And it just means that it's mixing its level with the combination of the undistorted level, which will definitely matter a lot when it comes to how all this stuff comes together. And here's this EQ, which I was actually originally using as an EQ, but then I got carried away and modulated it. High pass and a peak, which are moving against each other. And that adds a little bit to like the sort of Formant nature, but both of these are fairly light. I don't have a lot running on the Q value, which means that, and also like the gain on this guy is pretty low, which means that we're not getting like the really obvious talky feel out of it. The phaser's on, and I have the mix being automated to go off when it goes up. So when it comes back down, we can kind of hear the little phasiness of the phaser. The depth knob, I'm pretty sure represents the stages function in FL's regular phaser, where it introduces more combs essentially, and then the frequency is just to change as you know where that goes. And I'm modulating both of these things, which causes interesting sort of motion. And like if this were all the way on, this is what that would sound like. Neat, but it's not on all the time. And then we have a Formant filter, which is also is almost barely on at all. If we're on all the way, that's what that would sound like. And this sort of motion of it, this is just this is really a basic Formant filter. Like this one controls specifically the shapes that it has, and this one controls the motion of it. And like it's very, like this morphs between shapes, and this changes sort of position in spectrum, I think is the thing. And I'm sounding unsure about this because I was not attempting to make this sound, and I was just kind of messing around with stuff and just saw what happened. we're kind of doing this analysis together, where we're both figuring out how the hell this happened, because I wasn't, as I said, planning for it. Yeah, so like that sort of tone that it imparts, I wanted, but I didn't want it to be that, like, only that. So that's why it's down here at 26%, because it still imparts part of it, but all the other crap is allowed to come in too. And there's reverb out here, but we're not going to talk about that until after we talk about the compressor. The compressor in multiband mode is pretty much the coolest part of Serum. Because, like, most of the time, especially to get the sort of feeling that most people want out of this kind of sound, multiband compression is what they need to get it there. Like, we can get pretty far with the EQs and distortion, but multiband compression really just kind of, solves the feeling. This is really kind of hard. What's the threshold set here? It's minus 30 dBs. Like, it's really low. And the ratio is limiting, so it means that, like, it's just staying down there. And that's why this is so freakishly quiet, pretty much until it gets there, and then all of a sudden, like, that's what that does. And unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on some things, it's doing that by compressing it unbelievably hard on specifically these three spectrums, which we have no control over. But if we don't really need it, we don't really need control over it either. And the sort of the unfortunate nature of it is what it does to things like reverb, where things like the low cut and high cut only matter a little bit, and even the teensy tiny amount of it, like, I have so little of it that if I didn't have it on, the compressor that is, that you would have a hard time hearing it. And in fact, with my monitors as low as they are for when I record videos, is so quiet that I can't hear it. And with the compression on, like, a lot about that tone that's happening right now is as a result of the compressor just pulling up so much level to make sure that we can hear it. Actually, what's happening is that the compressor is crushing down the level so much, but then we're making it up. This is what the makeup gain is for. This is why this is pretty much all the way up. Thanks, computer. And the master's up a little bit. I don't actually remember if this is where I started or not, but I think I turned it up to sort of facilitate it feeling louder. I mean, I just wanted to get it up to, regular level, which was turned out to be kind of hard because of how hard I shoved it down. Yeah, and then that's the sound. That's all this is, because it's just a Serum preset. And I was particularly enamored that this happened by accident, because I have tried to make the sound in the past a couple times, even in the previous K tutorial series, and like every time I didn't really do it, but then this just happened this way. Who would have thought? Seriously. Anyway, this preset is available to download in the description of this video. If you have any questions about this, please let me know. As I said before, if you want to make a request for a sound to be recreated, put it in the comment in the most current Affinity K tutorial video. I'm going to try and make sure the playlist is up to date so that you can, find that easily. Yeah. If you have any questions about this, please let me know. I said that already. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. And as usual,